All right, now we're really going. So thanks everyone for joining us tonight for the Wonder Hour about tree care. If you have questions throughout the presentation, feel free to drop them into the chat box or you can unmute and ask them. We'll also have an opportunity at the end where you can ask your questions. Also, we're recording this, so if something pops up or you miss something, we will send you a copy of this presentation afterwards, so don't worry about writing down all the notes about trees. So first, I'll start by talking a little bit about who Great River Greening is and what we do. So in our simplest form, Great River Greening takes the mad and makes it beautiful. So we transform threatened natural areas, spaces that are overrun with invasive species or have erosion issues or are suffering in response to climate change. And we turn them into healthy, resilient ecosystems. With some of the top ecologists in the region on our team, Great River Greening protects Minnesota's waterways, restores our public parks, sustains native wildlife, and pushes the needle towards a more sustainable model for agriculture. We make and keep Minnesota beautiful. So if you've hiked in a park or brought your family to a lake or cycled along the river in the Twin Cities, you've probably seen our work and didn't even know it. We've touched more than 400 parks and lakes across the state. And this year alone, we're working on 70 different project sites, all the way from southern Minnesota to the Mississippi headwaters region in northern Minnesota. So sometimes it's easier to understand what we do by understanding what we don't do. So we're different in that we don't participate in advocacy or land acquisition like other organizations similar to us. We have partners that do that work. So instead, we're out there getting the work done, planting trees, removing invasives, reviving shorelines, and finding natural solutions to environmental problems. We're getting our hands dirty. And I think what's cool is we're doing it alongside thousands of volunteers every year, including kids and teens. So you heard us talking about it briefly as we're starting with everyone to join us. So we're talking about trees tonight. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about our Big Woods Heritage Forest WMA project, which is in Lonsdale, Minnesota. This is a project we're doing in partnership with the Minnesota DNR and the Cannon River Watershed District. So it is land that was purchased by a partner. The Minnesota Land Trust purchased the land and gave it to the DNR. And now we're doing restoration work on it. So we're doing buckthorn removal in some of the big woods remnant that's there. And then we're also planting trees that'll create a big woods environment 20 to 30 years from now, because we're planting seedlings and seeds. So we planted acorns and other seeds in the fall. Last spring, we planted 15,000 trees, and this spring, we're planting another 3,500 seedlings. We're planting red oak, white oak, and bur oak. And Kirsten, who's here tonight, will be out there planting some of those seedlings tomorrow. So that's one of our biggest tree projects, but we plant trees on a majority of our project sites. And if you're interested in donating and helping us plant more trees, we have a Living Legacy program where you can purchase a tree in honor or in memory of someone. So we will plant a tree and we will send a card to whoever you're honoring, so they will know that you've honored them with a gift, but also will learn a little bit more about where their tree was planted and the work we're doing. So that's something you can learn more about on the Great River Greening website, and I'll include it in any follow-up emails that I send to you. Now, tonight, we're joined by Lance Gardner from Yes Trees, and they are our newest corporate partner. So I will turn things over and let Lance talk about trees and tree care.
Thank you, and hello to, looks like we got Vanessa, Jenna, and a Headblom. I apologize if I'm not saying that correctly. But yes, I am Lance Gardner, the owner of Yes Trees Tree Service. We are based out of Maple Grove. We do most of our work in the west, northwest, and metro areas. So if you live in those locations and after this presentation, you feel like you might be one of the people that I'm kind of specifically talking to, and you have neglected a little bit of your tree work and you are looking for someone reliable and knowledgeable to come out, we are your people. Can you, yep, thank you. So just a little background. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time about my company because that's not what this is about, but I do want you guys to know a little bit about what I have been through and what our crew has been through, so you know that we know a little bit about what we're talking about. So Yes Trees was founded in 2019, and we are a very young crew. We have myself, I'm 25. Jerome, our climber, our lead climber is 27 years old. And Alvin is the oldest of us all. He is 42, I believe. So he's got the most years on him, but we are all very knowledgeable in what we do. I've been in the industry and around it since I was about 14, with Alvin being my stepfather. He taught me a lot growing up. Jerome is just one of those people that is very smart, one of those people you would consider to be a genius, especially in tree work. He knows everything, and when homeowners want to talk to us or have any questions about their trees or their property, he is the guy to talk to. It's absolutely crazy. There's times I have to tell him to stop talking so much because we have work to do. And he loves teaching and letting homeowners know about what they have in front of them. So what sets us apart or sets us apart? Number one, I truly believe is being partnered with Great River Greening. As owner, this was a part of my business plan from the beginning, was to get partnered with a nonprofit that focused on clean air, sustainability, wildlife, all the above. Um, because I wanted to give back. I understand that what we do remove quite a bit from the ecosystem, and I wanted to make sure that we are able to give that back. I didn't know who I was going to be partnered with, but I'm very lucky and blessed, in my opinion, to be found Great River Greening, and I look forward to continuing my work with them and volunteering and doing all of those things. There's not a lot of tree companies out there that do donate or do give back or do any of that stuff, mainly because they don't really need to. The demand in our business is so high that for me, it wasn't, it was just part of who I am. I wanted to make sure that we were able to give back. Being transparent with our customers is number one on our list. We want to make sure that our customers know exactly why we're charging what we're charging. We want to know exactly what it is about their tree that's hazardous. If it's there's times where we go to people's house and they think that they need tree work done, and I tell them, no, your trees are just fine, and I'm not the one to sell people on anything. I just want to make sure that you as a homeowner get the best bang for your buck. And if you don't need to spend any money, I will tell you that. A lot of our trees, although they're repetitive in nature for us, so it's usually the same thing, whether it's tree removal, trimming, um, pruning. We do cabling of trees if someone really wants to save a tree and it has a split and something like that. Although it's kind of repetitive for us, we are always open to learning. All of us are take this more seriously than just taking down trees. We want to be the best tree company that there is, and you have to be willing to learn and grow to accomplish that. Lastly, I run this business as fairly as I can with the most honest pricing, because to me, that's the biggest thing. There's a lot of guys out here in this industry that understand that the demand is so high that people will pay pretty much anything just to get on somebody's schedule that is reliable and will show up on time. So I like to um, be fair and honest so I can sleep peacefully at night. So that's a little bit about why, if someone was to ask, why should we choose you? Those are the list of things that I would explain to them. And that is going to be it for Yes Trees. And I am going to now transfer over to a little bit about some things that you all could relate to in your property. So here are a couple of species that we see almost every single day working on. What species of tree are on your property? So if you notice any of these leaves, we have a box elder, which is not the best type of tree when it comes to, considering an oak or a maple, or ash is not considered to be the best tree either, but all of these trees are all over the place and they are in abundances. So if you see these leaves, and it's very hard to differentiate between leaves and trees, I would say ash and oak and maple are probably the easiest three to tell kind of what tree you have. And even for me, being in the tree industry, the hardest thing for us is identifying trees. It's funny, people have us come to their house and say, "Hey, do you know what kind of tree this is?" And a lot of times, unfortunately, I don't even know the answer. You call a tree company, you should expect them to know what kind of tree it is, but it is definitely the hardest thing in our industry because there's so many different kinds of trees. So, and feel free while I'm going through this, if anybody has any questions, we have a smaller group tonight. So if you have any questions, don't be afraid to unmute yourself and ask away, and I will definitely stop whatever I'm talking about and help you answer that question. So these four trees, if you have trees in your yard, there's a very good chance that one of these four are in your yard. Um, and then if you can go to the next slide, I have a list of four other trees that you might see, um, either have in your yard or see on your everyday um, adventures. We have a spruce, we have an elm. One of my favorite trees is a honey locust. I think that they look absolutely beautiful. And a birch tree. There's two types of birch. There's a paper birch, which you see in this picture here, and then there's a river birch, which is more so along streams and ponds and lakes, that is a lot stronger. It's one of the hardest trees to break, and so it's very capable of withstanding those environments. But again, these are some trees and species that you might have on your property. And then I have a question. If somebody does want to unmute themselves and answer, that would be lovely. If you have any idea of what all these trees have in common. So we have a cedar, we have a black cherry, we have a white oak, and we have a black walnut here. Is there anything that you might think these trees have in common? I'll give you about 15 seconds to think about it, and maybe unmute yourself and give me a guess.
I can take a shot.
Okay.
Just based on the pictures alone and my limited knowledge of trees, does it have something to do with the way that they seed? Like they have like these, something to do with the seeds?
It does not have something to do with the seeds, but that's
Oops.
completely okay because I really don't expect anybody to know what it is. A small hint, I doubt you'll get it from this, but it doesn't have anything to do with the nature of the tree. It doesn't have to do with the seeding, the location, any berries that come off of it, anything like that. So I will just go ahead and let you all know that all of these trees can pay your next bill. So if you have any of these trees on your property, um, do not let a tree company take them down at the normal rate because chances are they are going to go ahead and resell this wood. So all of these trees are worth money. Cedar, black cherry, white oak, and black walnut. These are the biggest ones in Minnesota that if you have in your backyard, you can sell them for logs. Cedar is used mainly for fences and planks. Um, it's used for decking, siding, anything that you can use ply or not plywood, but the wood to um, create outdoor type of structures. Black cherry is used more for furniture and whether it's tables or um, benches, storage units, cabinets, anything like that, because of the look of the inside of the log, has a very unique look to it. And I should have posted a picture of what the inside looks like. But just keep that in mind. And if you feel, more obligated to know exactly what these can create for you, go ahead and just Google. It's easily available out there to see what you can have made out of these trees. Oak is kind of the same thing. So you're looking at tables, benches, chairs, all that stuff. I'm sure if you've gone furniture shopping and you do like wood in your house, you've seen, you know, oak tables, oak chairs, all of that good stuff. And part of why oak is so expensive is because it takes so long for it to grow to the size that it does. It's one of the slowest growing, hardest wood of trees in all of Minnesota. And so it takes a while. You can't plant it in 15 years from now, have a nice table out of it. So it takes a while. And then the most expensive tree on this list is a black walnut. Again, same thing, furniture. Mostly what these trees are used for. A couple of them are bowls. So if they have burrs on your tree, which I didn't put a picture of, but if there's like knots that are on your tree of wood that is, you know, you can tell is um, not normal, I guess they are worth more money. So the more odd your tree looks, the more money that it's going to get. Um, One thing that is cool about these black walnuts is that they can actually help with infections of like parasitic. These walnuts, anytime that we work on these trees, we have to wear gas mask, not gas mask, but like the same thing that we're wearing for COVID. Anything to keep this from getting into your system, because there is a um, uh, it's a spore that comes out into the air when you cut into this walnut. It can actually be deadly, and so we have to be very careful when we work with these. So these 4 trees, if you have in your backyard, make sure that if you have them removed, anything like that, that you get some type of money out of them, because they are worth something. And as for bugs, so I'm sure if you guys do have trees, you've seen some rotting or some holes in your tree or something that may be a cause for concern. There are a ton of bugs, insects that can be inside of your tree. And so I didn't put an entire list of them on there because we'd be here for 3 hours going through that. So instead, I brought you to someone who has all of the research and has an entire department that is dedicated to trees and shrubs over at the University of Minnesota, which I've done quite a bit of studying on my own to find out about things. They are very detailed in their explanations. If you go and click on any of these, you could go to the one, the beetles, bugs, and ants, and then click on the under, yep, that works. They will take you to bugs that and show you a picture of something that you might see in your tree. So then you click on the picture, and then it'll tell you a little description, and it'll tell you why, when, and where that you might see these bugs and what it can do to your tree. Um, there's again a umpteen amount of bugs, and you might not even be able to see these. Most times you won't be able to, but your city usually has a arborist that will come out for free and inspect your tree and tell you exactly what's going on with it. So you don't need to pay anybody to come out and inspect your tree. Just go through the city and have them come out and take a look at it. But if you want any more information on that, again, just go to the U of M, Google. You could just Google trees and shrubs, University of Minnesota, and they will give you everything that you could possibly need to know about insects. And with that, I'm still going to give you a couple. You can
I'll
go.
include this link in the email I send too, so people can have it that way too.
Perfect. And I'm still going to give you a little information about 2 insects that are highly affecting really the nation right now. For sure, emerald ash borer is a nationwide disease, and you might have heard about it through the city. Depending on where you are, the city would send out a letter in your mail basically telling you that this disease has been located in your city and that they highly recommend that you treat your trees for emerald ash borer. Emerald ash borer is the one in the bottom right corner, the green guy, and they have completely taken over. If you live in Brooklyn Park, North Minneapolis, um, Robbinsdale area, Plymouth area, any of those places, it's in a high rate right now, and it's been here for years, but it's slowly moving further north. So it was most seen when it hit the suburbs and the metro area, in the Chaska area, Edina, Lakeville, all of those places, and it's been working its way up north over the years. So anywhere right now, I could see it taking out. I live in Maple Grove, and I could see it getting here within a year to 2 years. So it moves very fast. They kill trees very fast. Once you get it infected, the tree will be completely dead within 6 months. So the city will come out, and they are all throughout the state. They're, working together to try and eliminate as many of these diseased trees as they can so they can prevent the spread. So what they do is they'll walk in your area of your house, your neighborhood, and then they will, if they see a diseased tree, they will mark it with either a green or a red mark, and then they'll leave you a flyer, an informational kind of packet in your mailbox telling you what's going on and the fact that you do need to get the tree removed. I think some cities give you a month, others give you 3 months. It kind of depends on what city. But emerald ash borer is one disease bug that is not wanted at all. A couple other things that will affect your trees. So if you see scrapings on the side of your tree, there's a good chance that that's a deer. They use it to rub up against and basically scratch themselves. So you'll see markings on the side of your tree. If you have big holes in your tree that looks like they're hollowed out and rotting, there's a good chance that raccoons are living in there. Squirrels obviously nest in trees and can be an issue. And then woodpeckers like to peck away at dead wood. So if you hear woodpeckers in your trees, there's a very good chance that there's some rotting, or the tree is hollow out, or there's something going on to where they have found dead wood and they can easily get through the bark and get the insects out of the tree. The moth up top is something that you probably see almost every day in the summer. I mean, there's moths all over the place. So you can also understand that those guys are eating away at the leaves on trees. Gypsy moths specifically can do a lot of damage to your tree. They usually won't kill trees, but you will be able to see holes in your leaves, de-leafing of trees. The thing is with those, they usually just grow back because it's not a disease that they're giving the tree. They're just eating it away. And those trees can withstand that. So the chances of that tree dying are pretty slim. But there's a lot of things that can be affecting your tree. Those are just a few of the bigger ones that we see kind of every day. Now I want to get into trimming your trees. If you are a homeowner and you have trees, they do need to be trimmed. Some people feel the need to kind of just let them go and be natural, which is fine, but trimming your trees does not harm the tree at all unless you do it incorrectly. If you start taking out large portions of trees, I will tell you that you are only supposed to take out 30% of your tree at any point. So if you're trimming, you don't want to trim 30% of your tree or more, because then it takes the chance of putting that tree into shock and killing it. So as trimming is fine, raising your canopy, getting it off of your house, all of those things are fine. The tree will grow right back into shape, but you do not want to take too much of it. So trimming your trees can increase the overall health by removing the dead sticks, encouraging growth in the live areas. So again, taking dead sticks out and trimming branches so you can mow underneath and all of that stuff will just increase the life of the tree and allow it to spend its energy somewhere else and to regrow where those dead sticks have been removed from. Thinning out the tree can allow for better airflow, which can decrease the chance of a branch becoming stressed and breaking out. So some trees are meant to be thick in the middle, some trees are not. An example of this is an autumn blaze maple. If you have one of those, they get extremely orange, dark orange in the fall. They look amazing. They're very full, they're very thick, and that's how they're supposed to be. As for a silver maple, you're supposed to clean out the center of them, the inner side of the tree, because the large trunks of a silver maple usually branch out into many different directions and they're quite skinny. So you want the air to be able to get through the tree so that way those branches are not taking on stress when the wind blows. It allows better airflow and the tree is less stressed out, which again then can reduce the chance of anything breaking out on you. Raising the canopy can promote the growth. I always tell homeowners any branch that's horizontal or is drooping downwards out of your tree is usually sucking life out of it and not promoting the growth of it to grow up and strong and out. So if there's anything that again is horizontal, or if you're again hitting your head, that's people always call us when when they've had enough of hitting their head when they mow. They don't want to duck and dodge anymore. They'd rather just get the tree lifted up and out of their way. Trimming those things does not harm the tree at all. It only helps it. Removing the crossing and rubbing branches can decrease the chance that branches die and break out. So as branches grow, they can intersect, and then they get bigger and bigger, and they start to rub up against one another. Um, and that opens up the bark and then allows the tree to become susceptible to injury and ants and animals and everything else. So when the wind blows, those branches rub against each other, and you'll see in your tree, if you have that, that spot is dead, and it will not grow back if you don't do anything about it. So in this case, trimming your tree is fantastic, because it's kind of like you're taking care of your tree by taking off one limb so another limb can grow and prosper without the stress of that. Um, and it allows you to shape your tree, obviously, in whatever fashion you desire. So if you want your tree to look better, you can trim away at it. Some people, again, don't want their trees trimmed, and they kind of just want that natural aspect, and that's completely fine. But then if that's the case, don't be surprised when things do go wrong, when branches break off, or your tree does get damaged, or it falls over because you didn't thin out the middle of it. Those are all things that you can prevent while still maintaining the life of the tree. And here's just an example. It's unfortunately for us, it's really hard to get before and afters of trees just because there's so much going on. But I did happen to get an example here that I felt was pretty indicative of what we can do to a tree. So on the left side, this tree had not been touched, I don't think, in, if maybe ever. I don't think they did anything. They were driving into their driveway and into their garage and always hitting the branches, and the shrubs on the side of the house were being completely um, choked out by the branches of the birch. And so they weren't able to grow at all really in this upper corner, which I'm showing with my mouse, but I remember I'm not sharing my screen. Um,
Oh.
so in that upper
Do
corner,
you
they weren't
see,
able,
do you see my mouse?
no, but it's
All
okay.
right,
No worries. Now I see it. So in
all
the
right.
upper, yep. So if you go to the right picture, and then up in that left corner of the shrub, right in there where it's bare, that is because it wasn't able to breathe, it wasn't able to get any sunlight, it wasn't able to grow at all. So those are things, if you have multiple trees next to each other, unfortunately, I see it too much where landscapers planted too many trees and right next to each other, and so they can't grow to their full potential, or homeowners even not really knowing what they're doing, and so they put these massive trees right next to each other, and then 40 years from now they call me and they're like, I don't know what I did, this is a disaster, what can you do about it? So this is just a picture of what cleaning up a tree can look like. And again, that tree was about as bad as it gets. So when we raised up the canopy, we thinned out the middle, we did tip reduction, which it takes away from some of the larger branches, which then allows some of the smaller branches to grow and fill in those places. So if you have a tree that you don't want to continue to grow up and grow taller and higher, we can reduce the tips. You should never top a tree, as in just cut the tree in half from the top, because you will kill the tree, but we can do what's called tip reduction on your tree to prevent the growth up and kind of allow it to grow out and to fill in some of those locations. So this is an example of, again, someone who didn't really care too much about the trees and wanted it to be natural, but then it just got out of hand, and that will happen if you don't take care of them. So they had to call us out and get it handled. Another example, so this is an example of the silver maple that I was talking about, on how you should thin out the middle of it. So these limbs are very skinny, very long, very tall, and they are not the strongest limbs out there. So if you don't thin out the middle, this is where the tree becomes stressed in the middle, and you can break out. And this tree was right next to two houses, and so I'm very glad that they did call us, because as you see in the right picture, we took out a lot of that we call them suckers, or brush that's in the middle of your tree, again, allowing for airflow. So another before and after, again, it's very hard. Hopefully you can see the difference. I think you can, but it is hard for us to get very good before and after pictures, again, just because there's so much going on. Best time to trim your trees. So oaks and elms should only be trimmed in the winter. If you trim them in the summer, they are susceptible, oaks are susceptible to oak wilt, which if you have oaks, it's probably the biggest disease that people are familiar with is oak wilt. It's a spore that's in the air throughout the winter. There's nothing that causes it. It's just there. So if you do trim your oak in the summer or even late spring or fall time, any of those times that's not winter, it is very susceptible to getting diseased. And then this beautiful oak that I explained earlier that takes forever to grow, it's going to get sick and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it, and you will lose your tree. And so we don't want to do that. And I still do get calls where people have me come out and want to trim their oak or their elm. Elm's the same way. There's a spore, you don't want to do it. I'm sure you've all heard of Dutch elm disease. That is something that we do not want to come back. There are very little elms left in Minnesota, and so we want to make sure that we take care of those, and only trim them in the winter. Any other tree is preferred to be trimmed in its dormancy, again, which is the winter, but the risks of trimming that tree during any other time of the year are not significant. So we're able to trim every other tree at any time of year. Again, with maples, technically you're supposed to trim them before the sap and before they start producing their spring duties, you could say, but it doesn't really affect the tree at all. They're able to withstand it as long as you don't go over that 30%. So just 30% of the tree is the most that you should take in one given year. Any fruit or ornamental trees that you may have, ones that bloom in the spring, the only suggestion I have is because they only bloom for about 2 to 3 weeks in the spring, you probably don't want to trim them when they are blooming because you'll be without them for an entire year. And I know people who have these trees look very forward to those 2 to 3 weeks when their front yard looks magnificent. So just wouldn't trim them when they're blooming. Any other time you can trim them yourself. You can have us trim them. It doesn't affect the health of the tree. Only oaks and elms. And if any other tree company comes out and tells you otherwise, please do not use them, because it's very well known that they should not be touched outside of the winter. So when should you remove a tree? I know a lot of trimming is one thing and then removing is a whole nother beast. A lot of people don't really want to remove their trees for the reason that it is, even dead trees are very important to our ecosystem and ecologically for us. And so people aren't always the most apt to remove trees, even if they're rotted and they're in a bad position. They really don't want to take trees down, which is one reason why I did partner with Great River, because I informed them, hey, even though we are removing this tree here, I will be planting something else somewhere else. And so you can kind of have that peace of mind that actually taking down that tree is probably going to plant way more than just the one tree that you are removing. So diseased trees should always be removed, whether you are a environmentalist or not. If they are sick, we want to get rid of them so we can prevent the spread from them spreading to other trees. Rotted or injured trees that are hazardous to you or somebody else. So if there's a rotted tree right next to your house, if you live on a boulevard where cars are driving by and you have a rotted tree or a dead tree, I highly recommend that you get them removed. Even if it's not near you, it is near other people. If you have a walk path by your house, power lines, anything like that, I always look for worst case scenario. So people always ask me, well, should I remove this tree or should I remove this limb or anything like that? And I always tell them, well, if it were to fall, what's the worst thing that could happen? And so if there's nothing underneath that limb, or if the tree is out in the open, and if it fell over, it wouldn't hit anything or hurt anybody, I usually tell them to just leave it be. And if it falls over, give us a call and we can come out and clean it up for you. But as long as it's not going to hurt anything, I would recommend you just leave it up. One thing that homeowners do like, and this is kind of the opposite of the environmentalists, where they're like, hey, I want more grass in my yard. I can't grow any grass. I need some sunlight in here. So I need you to get this fully live living tree that has nothing wrong with it. We need you to take it out. And it is my job. And so I do have to do it. And again, I am not a huge fan of doing it, but it's not my property. It's not my decision. And so I usually take them down, and then I would just remember in my head that I have the backing of Great River Greening. And even though I'm taking down this beautiful tree, I will be doing my part to replace it. So it's amazing to be with you guys for those exact reasons, because I know even when I'm removing, I'm always replacing. Why should I get my property evaluated? So these are two examples that I have personally seen and dealt with. The one on the left, the guy actually called me the day before this tree fell over. He saw signs of stress, signs of rot, signs of decay, signs of everything that could possibly go wrong. So he gave me a call. I went out and gave the estimate, and he called me the next day and said, you couldn't believe that it fell over the day after I called you out. And on the left, you can't see it, but on the left is a entire line of trees, and on the right is his house. So this tree just happened to fall right in the alleyway of both of them. And this was a very big willow tree. So if it would have, and it did skim the top of his roof, and then it kind of rolled off, but if it would have hit his house, it would have created a lot of damage. And there was nothing wrong with his house. And some people are hoping that trees hit their house, because then they get a free garage or a free car or anything like that. But in this case, he did not want it to touch his house. And those things can definitely happen, which is why any property I go to, I usually just spend an extra 5 minutes walking around and making sure that I don't see any major signs of things like this, so I can help prevent these things happen in the future. On the right, that is more than likely, it was from the storm/tornado that was in Brooklyn Park last year, in that area. And so there's really nothing that you can do about that. But one of the biggest things for trimming your trees is removing the weight off of major limbs. So if you have major limbs going over your house or anything like that, we are able to take some of the lower branches off of that limb, so it reduces the stress on the limb and has a better chance of it staying upright and not coming down like this one. Again, in a tornado, there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. But if everything is calculated, and so if you had taken that chance and trimmed those trees, there's a better chance that this wouldn't happen if a storm or a tornado or something comes through. So it's all about really being proactive and making sure that everything around you is sound and protected, because these trees are big and heavy. And I mean, if we drop one single branch on somebody's fence or on their deck or anything like that, even a small branch that we feel is not, we're not taking any major pieces, we still break things. We still hit and chip and do all these things. So just imagine a big limb coming down through your house. It's not going to be good. So make sure that you at least have somebody out to evaluate it, so a little more about what's going on. This is big. So like I said in the beginning, I try to be as fair and honest as I can with my customers. And there are a lot of gals, people in this industry that are not that way. And because there's so many factors that go into estimating the price of a tree, there's not one set rate. There's nothing that you really have to go off of other than what someone is telling you. So I want to give you a couple things to look for, and give you a ballpark idea of what it would cost to trim and remove trees. So again, many factors go into estimating the price of trimming or removing a tree. There's no tree is the same, no location is the same, no placement, no nothing is the same on any tree. Some of these factors are distance from home base. So when I say home base, I mean the 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 location where we are able to pull all of our equipment to and bring the tree to. So for most cases, that's in the street. For some people, they have a bigger backyard and we're able to drive to it. But home base is where all of our equipment is and all of the work needs to be done. So the distance from that, the location of the tree. So if the tree's in the backyard, hidden away in the corner, you know, and there's a small fence that we have to go through versus the trees in the front yard, and all we have to do is drop it into the street and clean it up. The location of the tree is huge. The size of the tree, in all honesty, is not the biggest factor, and it really doesn't matter a whole lot, because if we have, you know, a smaller size tree in the front yard right next to the road, and then we have a massive tree in the front yard right next to the road, but we're able to drop both of them in the middle of the road, the price of dropping a large tree in the middle of the road is not that bad. It's not super expensive, because we're easily able to access all of it, and the equipment that we have is capable of taking, you know, the same things away from a small tree versus a large tree. So if you have the right equipment, the size of the tree really doesn't matter, because it all fits into the same kind of um, area, I guess. It will be different. Obviously, a larger tree will be more expensive, but it doesn't matter as much as where it is, if it's over your house, if it's any of those things. So the size of the tree doesn't matter a whole lot. The risk factors, we have sheds, houses, power lines, air conditioning units, cars, we have parks, we have gardens, anything that is in the way of our drop zone, which is us just being able to cut things and letting it fall to the ground. All of those things have to come into consideration, because if we break anything, it is our responsibility solely to fix that. And so we have to, you know, consider that when giving your price. If something goes wrong, how much is this going to cost me to fix? Because nobody's perfect and things do break and we do make mistakes. It doesn't happen a ton, but it happens.
That makes sense.
Yep. The type of tree, it doesn't matter a whole lot, honestly. I don't even know why I put it in there. It really doesn't matter what kind of tree it is. Equipment required to work on the tree. So if we just need a pole saw and we can do something from the ground, versus we need to have our lift with us and we need to go 60 feet in the air, or if we have our skid steer with us, what all equipment do we need to get your job done? The more equipment, obviously, the higher the cost is going to be.
Oops, sorry. I
No
got ahead of
worries.
myself.
How important the landscaping in yard is one of the biggest things. Some people don't care if you drop and create divots in their yard. You can drive all over it. You can make a mess, whatever you want to do. Just get the tree out of my yard. That is going to lower your cost significantly versus someone who wants us to put down plywood. And we have to be very careful with everything that we do, because there's flowers underneath, or they just put down sod. Please, for the love of God, do not put down fresh sod and then call a tree company. Please, to all of you out there, please don't do it, because it doesn't end well for anybody.
That's a
So
good
how
tip.
yes,
A good tip for
or
all of us.
or don't put up a brand new fence and then call us. Call us before you put up the brand new fence. So one, we can just, if we need to damage it, we can damage it, or we can have the fence completely taken down, and it will make our in and out life a whole lot easier, which will then save you a ton of money. So don't lay fresh sod and don't put up a brand new fence, please and thank you. Distance to the dump site. So what we have to do with the wood, if you are 2 blocks away from where we dump our wood, it's going to be a lot cheaper than if you are 30 minutes away and we have to spend that time and gas to go get rid of whatever we just took from your house. So those are all factors. There's no tree that's the same. I just asked that you get a couple quotes from a couple guys, and I think I have this in the next slide, so I'll wait on that. Minimum work required. So if we, kind of like I was saying, the size of the tree factor. So if it's in your front yard and all we have to do is drop it into the street, a tree can range anywhere from $200 to $800. $800 being above average size tree. You know, they can get more expensive than that if they're in the street still, but for the most majority of trees that you might have in your front yard, between $200 and $800. And that should tell you that even though it is in your front yard and all we have to do is drop it in the street, that's still a $600 range in what the cost of that tree could be. So all of those factors, that's why I just, in the next slide, I want to stress that you feel comfortable with who you're working with and the price that they give you. Maybe not this next slide, the slides after this.
Oh,
But
that's
this is just a
this
video of what we
is.
do. This is
Mhm.
one example of someone that really didn't care about their yard getting messed up, and we had a tight fit. So I'll show you. This is when something goes right in our everyday. So we had a shed over there, and then we had a garage over there, but it was still a tight fit, but I like to think that we're pretty good at what we do, so we made it work. And then this next slide here, you'll see it's going to be kind of hard to see, but if you watch the guy that's making the cut, and then you read below, it says work is always a near-death experience for someone in this industry. Every day, our life flashes before our eyes, which is another reason why this work isn't cheap. But this can happen. Hopefully you can see it.
Oh, wow, it bounced.
Yeah, so that saw, and that's a 6-foot person. So that running saw that is very big got stuck when the tree was falling and then got catapulted about 10 feet into the air while it was still spinning and running. You can, if you can go ahead and play it again one more time.
All right, I'll try.
And I mean, and not only is that saw running, but behind him there's a log. And so as he's trying to run away from the saw, he almost falls over and trips over the log, which in all honesty, we're not supposed to have anything behind us for this exact reason. It's called
Yeah.
our out. But most times this doesn't happen, and most times, so you kind of forget about stuff like that. But this is always, when something does go wrong, it's always a good reminder. But that's just an example, and that is like worst case scenario because there's nothing you can do about that except run away.
Yeah.
So every day something, not that specifically, but something is always happening to where it's a quick reminder that life is precious, and we need to be very careful in what we do. So this is what I was saying. What
I
to
think
look
this
for.
top one, insurance, based on the last video, is very important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is the number one thing you should always ask for. Any guy is going to tell you yes, or a gal is going to tell you yes, we have insurance, even if they don't. So not everyone does it, and some people don't want to be that person, but I would always recommend that you ask for some type of proof of insurance from the company, because again, something can go wrong, and a lot of times it does go wrong. And so you want to make sure that whoever you're working with is insured and will be professional enough to handle and fix whatever did occur, not only for your property, but also for themselves. This is a dangerous industry, and our workers' comp is like the highest out of any industry, workers, because things do happen, and unfortunately in our industry, if some
Like the last video. I
exactly.
think that's gonna just be running through my mind for the rest of the
Yep,
night. A
yep,
saw in the air. So
yep.
thank you, Lance.
Absolutely, it is. It's not deadly. And as I was saying, when something does go wrong in our industry, it's never something little. Like, it's not a cut, it's not, a rolled ankle or something like that. It's either someone cuts themselves with a chainsaw, somebody falls out of a tree, somebody gets ran over by a 10,000-pound piece of equipment, someone breaks their foot. Like, there's no little injuries in our industry. So it's crucial that you have somebody, that you ask for these things, and that you don't
Also,
just
the reasons
go
to
ahead.
hire professionals to do it and not try to do it on your
Exactly.
own. All
Yep.
those things you just listed off.
Yep, and that'll be in one of those slides as well about ladder work. We don't recommend you get on a ladder with a chainsaw. It's not it's a recipe for disaster. Um, Other than insurance, check the company's reviews, Google them. I hope you do that with most companies that you use, unless it's a referral or somebody that you know. Make sure that you do a little research on them, professionalism with the person that comes to give your estimate. And when I say that, so just a year ago, I was going to estimates, and I didn't have the nicest car. I didn't have, logos all over myself. I didn't have any of those things that would be, considered a professional tree company, but I did present myself professionally. I walked up to them. I made sure that I had eye contact. I spoke to them clearly. I made them I was very transparent. I let them know that I was knowledgeable in everything that I was talking to them about. So I'm not saying they have to come in the newest truck and all the logos and everything like that, but just make sure that that they seem like they know what they're doing, because there's a lot of people in this industry that know how to do tree work, but they don't take safety precautions. Um, and they think it's easy because it is rare that somebody gets hurt. But again, when somebody does get hurt, it's not a pretty sight. So just make sure that they're professional. They provide you with insurance. If they don't have a website or reviews, but you still want to work with them, ask them for a simple referral. Ask them if they have a reference that you can call and say, hey, how did they do? I want to work with this person, but I have a couple questions. And anybody that, feels like they do good work should be happy to present that with you. Estimates, quotes, contracts, and paperwork. At least have someone that gives you an estimate, some type of paper trail of that person. So you have their name, their address, their phone number, those things in case something does go wrong, because there's also stories where people mess up. They take out a deck, they take out a shed, and then they literally just disappear and you don't hear from them ever again. So make sure that you have some type of paperwork from them. It doesn't always have to be a contract. It should be, but even I don't give out a contract to every customer, because it gets very overwhelming because of the amount of work that we have to do, unless they ask for it. And if they do, um, I have no problem giving that to them. But at bare minimum, get some type of emailed or paper estimate from that company. And I'm wrapping up here. There's a couple things that I want to send you guys home with. Hopefully you learned a little bit about trees in general. If you have one of those trees that I described to you in the beginning, now you know what kind of tree it is. And if you didn't, maybe you'll have an idea of what to look for in the leaf of the tree, and then you can figure out what kind of tree you have. Um, I trimming your trees. So every 3 to 5 years. So if you get them trimmed this year, and whoever it is that you hire does a good job, you shouldn't have to worry about that tree for 3 to 5 years. The only reason that 3 years is really intact is if it's something that's over your house, because you want to keep the clearance off of your roof. So if it's over your house 3 years or so, and you should probably have someone come back out. But if it's just an overall trimming and it's not over anything, I would shoot. I always shoot to keep my customers happy for 5 years before they have to call anybody else out again. So every 3 to 5 years, you should take care of your trees if you so choose. If you have an ash tree and you want to keep it, get it treated. Like I said, emerald ash borer is here. It is very prominent, and you will lose your tree depending on your location. You all might already be in risk, and if you're not now, you will be in the next 3 years. And once it is infected, there is no saving it. So if you do have a tree in your front yard or your backyard or whatever it is, and you want to keep it and you like it, just make sure that you get it treated. Um, this is what we talked about. Do not, do not, do not, and do not again try doing anything at home with a chainsaw and a ladder. Um, you can do it from the ground if you feel comfortable. I always promote people doing their own work at home. Again, if they don't have anything that I can do, I don't try to sell them on anything. I tell them, hey, you might be able to do this. You don't have to pay money. It doesn't take a whole lot. But what I do not ever tell anybody is to get on a ladder. They're extremely dangerous. They're not safe, especially with a chainsaw in your hand. There's way too many things that can go wrong, and I've heard it, I've seen it, I've almost been a part of it, and I will not do it again. um, be careful not to plant trees too close to one another. As I said, even landscapers will do it. So if you're planting your own tree, do your research on how far away they need to be, how big they can get. Not only will they intertwine up above in the canopy, but they will also intertwined below where you can't even see it with the root system. So if you plant trees too close to each other, their roots will connect, they'll start to choke each other out, and then your tree's not going to be able to prosper. So do your research, don't plant it too close to the house, not too close to one another. And then lastly, not deep enough in the soil. So people will have us come out and they'll want us to remove trees because the roots are above the ground and they can't mow over them and they're just ugly looking, and it's all because the person that planted it didn't put it deep enough in the soil. One thing that I'm learning, unfortunately, is with newer homes, they plant these trees and they're just doing them quickly and they're not getting them done properly. And so these trees are not deep enough. And then 10, 15 years from now, the the roots are all over the place, and it's sad and it's unfortunate. And I always tell people, make sure that you let whoever built this home know that, you know, this is a problem and that they need to get on whoever is planting these trees, because it's not fair to you that you have to lose the only tree in your front yard because someone else didn't do their job correctly. And then lastly, get multiple estimates. Unless you feel like the person that you're working with is fair and honest and you feel that gut feeling that you'll be taken care of by them, just make sure that you get multiple estimates, because it's sad and it's unfortunate, but there are a lot of people in this industry that will try and completely overcharge you, again, because there's no set rate, there's no base rate. They can tell you whatever they want to tell you, and most chances are you're not going to know a whole lot about what they're saying, so you're just going to believe them. Just get multiple estimates. And that is all that I have for you all tonight. I hope that you learned something. I hope that you're able to take away something from this. If you have any questions about your tree, anything like that, if you want to get an evaluation, you are able to call me on this number. This is the Yes Trees phone number. You can check out our website and get a little more detail on who we are and what we do. We're on Facebook and Instagram. Um, yeah, if you there's two others in here. I know Kirsten and Melanie.
Meredith.
Meredith, might have questions for me, but if either one of you have any questions, Vanessa or AH, feel free to unmute yourself and go ahead and ask away.
So
And if not, oh yeah, go ahead.
I do have one question.
Mhm.
So a coworker has a buckthorn tree. So not just like a little bit of buckthorn, like a tree in their backyard. So is that something, like if it's just one problem tree, that's something that like you could, like a company like yours could come out and just take care of?
It's very unfortunate that I have to say this, but we are to the point now where I have a $400 job minimum, and that doesn't sound like the $400 job.
Okay.
So I wouldn't be able to help her. What I would recommend is she finds someone that is trying to start their tree company, because
Okay.
at the beginning is when you really, either that or a landscaper, because landscapers can take down stuff like that. They don't usually like to mess with bigger trees, but they will definitely take down smaller stuff like that. So just look for either a newer tree company, because anybody that is reliable and has a workload is going to have a job minimum as well.
That's good to know.
Yep.
All right. And you already answered the other question I had, was when to do crabapple trees, but you said you should do it before they bloom.
Yep. Any of them.
After they're done blooming, can you then, because you get the pretty, then that they
Yep.
can be taken care of? Okay.
Absolutely. And from my friend, what to do with bugs for linden trees. So again, without me being there, or having an arborist come out and look at it, I can't really answer that question, because we'd have to figure out first what type of bug it is and then figure out what the solution may be. So as I said earlier, if you have a question about anything, if your tree is dying or if you feel like it's being attacked by something, or as you're saying, there's a lot of bugs in it, I would just reach out to your city and have them come out with an agriculture inspector or their arborist, and they will go over all of this stuff with you. And then they will also give you a solution for it. So I wish that I could answer that for you, but again, if you go to the U of M website, you'll see that there are a a ton of bugs, and they're not really um, specific on what bug messes with which tree. They're just kind of a wide range, which is why someone has to come out to your house and inspect it. So I would, again, just reach out to your city and do that. I probably wouldn't be able to come out and give you that exact answer for the one reason there's a million different types of species of bugs that will be messing with that tree. And since that's not my profession, I don't spend a whole lot of time on specific, this bugs or treatments or anything like that. We're actually not even certified to do treatments right now. It's something that you have to go through. But yeah, just reach out if it's a concern you have. Reach out to your city, and they will be happy to come out and inspect that tree for you.
We get asked this question a lot, Lance, because people are taking down their ash trees and they want to replace it with something.
Mhm.
What do you typically recommend when people are taking out any type of tree? Like, do you recommend native, non-native? Are they like your go-to species?
My go-to species is a red maple. For a couple reasons. One, it looks very unique. It doesn't really stay green. It's more of like a reddish, red slash purplish tint to it, and so it's unique in that way. And it's like that all year round. So it's not only fall that your tree gets a little color to it, but it stays that way all year round. Another good thing about it is that they don't get super big. They get big enough to provide shade if you're looking for shade. Um, their front yard, backyard, really wherever you want to put them. And then also they really self-maintain themselves really well. So you don't have to worry about trimming them. You don't have to worry about, them getting too big and getting over your house and all of that stuff. So it's a very good looking tree. And it doesn't cost a whole lot to maintain the shape of it. And they're shaped really, really well. So anybody that asks me for a tree, I always recommend a red maple. And they're not the cheapest tree to plant, but again, you're saving money in the long run because you don't have to deal with it getting monstrous and all this other stuff. And Vanessa, I saw your chat. No worries. Thank you for being here.
So I'm also curious, why is a honey locust your favorite tree?
Just by the way it looks, it's
Okay.
unique, and it has the branches on it are very thin and very small, and the leaves are super light. And for the most part, most trees, oak, elm, maple, their leaves are all pretty much the same. They all have a really thick center, and then they have their own unique shapes on the tips. But a honey locust, were you able to catch how it looked, the leaf, when we showed?
Yep.
Okay, so it's definitely different and unique in that way, and they don't really grow in the center of the tree. It's more so just the tips. And so if you take care of it and you clean out the dead on the middle of it, it looks a lot different than any other tree that you're going to see
Yeah.
every day to day.
May I just give a shout out to Lance and Yes Trees before we depart for the evening? I can share that Lance reached out to us. It was a few months ago, and he and I had a conversation initially about he wanted to partner with Great River Greening in a way where he was donating a percent of his profits to us because he cares about the environment and our mission aligned with your values, and which is kind of a unique experience. And you and I talked a bit about how a lot of tree companies don't really have this philanthropic arm to their company. It's really just they're out to make money, right? Which is what businesses are supposed to do. So I do want to say that it is unique and I think commendable. And for someone in that space who's working in the environment to also want to give back to the environment, I think is a great idea. And we certainly appreciate it. And like you said earlier, Lance, people can feel good about taking down trees and having Yes Trees come out and take them down because they know that Great River Greening is out planting trees too. So it's not just that you are taking out trees, but you're also supporting an organization that is out replenishing those trees somewhere. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. And I'm, like I said, very excited to be a part of this and to work with you guys. It really is a dream come true. I wanted it to be done when I first started the company, and it's happening. So I'm very happy that it's here.
Wonderful.
Fantastic. I don't think we have any other questions, so I will close us out.
And thank you for your comment on the great presentation. I'm glad again that you were able to make it.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, you guys have a great night. Go enjoy what you can of the rest of daylight we have today.
We
Right.
still have an hour and like 15 minutes before the
Go
sun
check out
goes
your
down.
trees. That's what you should
Yeah.
do. Go
Right?
check out your trees.
Walk
Go-
the
go
property,
admire.
check out what needs to be trimmed.
Yeah,
Well, thank
very
you.
wonderful.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great
Thank
night.
you guys. Have a good night.